Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating and frankly kind of terrifying psychological trap known as the Icarus effect. We're going to unpack exactly how early success can completely and unknowingly sabotage your future, but more importantly, we're looking at how to master your ego before it masters you. We're getting right into the hidden wiring of human nature, our cognitive biases, and the very real dangers of getting exactly what you want out of life. Let's get into it. We are dropping straight in with this absolutely chilling observation from our source material, specifically from author Robert Greene, and it perfectly sets the stage for what we're talking about today. It's a callback to the ancient myth of Icarus, right? The guy who gets wings made of wax and feathers, gets warned not to fly too high, but gets totally intoxicated by the thrill of it. He grows arrogant, flies way too close to the sun, the wax melts, and he crashes into the sea. I want you to really notice the word merciless in this quote, because when the ego takes over, life doesn't just give you a gentle little tap on the shoulder to course correct. It delivers a catastrophic crash. And the crazy part, this isn't just an ancient myth. It is a very modern psychological reality. So here's a crucial question you need to ask yourself right now. Are you secretly carrying the Icarus virus? Because this psychological phenomenon literally infects the most successful people in the world, and they don't even realize it. It acts exactly like an asymptomatic virus. You might sit there and think you're in complete rational control of your decisions, but there are primitive, deeply rooted forces running the show. Think about it. When we get a little taste of success, a promotion, a sudden spike in revenue, some public recognition, it triggers a massive release of dopamine. It goes straight to our heads, distorts our reality, and quietly whispers that we are somehow untouchable. Seriously, think back to a recent win of your own. How quickly did that satisfaction morph into a feeling that you just couldn't lose? All right, Section 1, the wings of grandiosity. Let's explore what actually happens in our brains when we first get a taste of major achievement. Like, what exactly builds these metaphorical wings that lift us up so dangerously high? Well, our source material defines this as grandiosity. It's that sudden, intoxicating illusion of invincibility. When we experience grandiosity, we amplify our successes. We take all the credit, and we completely downplay the role of luck or timing or the massive team effort that actually got us there. The text points to Howard Hughes as the ultimate example of this. Early on, Hughes was this brilliant aviator and an incredibly shrewd businessman, right? He set airspeed records, built a massive empire, but that incredible early success bred a deeply toxic grandiosity. As his empire grew, his inflated ego led him to take wild, reckless risks, which ultimately caused him to isolate himself completely in a dark hotel room, totally consumed by paranoia. Now, here's the real kicker. That initial success itself, that is the heat melting the wax on our wings. It quietly disconnects us from reality. As humans, we have this deep, primal need to feel important. And in today's world, modern technology and social media, they amplify this grandiosity virus exponentially. Every like, every retweet, every new follower acts like a heat lamp on those wax wings. It creates this endless feedback loop of digital validation that artificially inflates our sense of superiority. It's basically a limitless buffet for the ego, feeding it until it just bursts. Moving on to Section 2, the ego's invisible traps. Let's break down the specific cognitive biases, these invisible mind traps from our research, that actively fuel this dangerous grandiosity. Now, you can't just delete these from your brain, but you can definitely learn to spot them. First up is the self-serving bias. And oh man, we have all seen this in action. It's when we eagerly credit our own internal brilliance for any success, but immediately blame external factors for our failures. Our sources use this highly relatable example of a corporate CEO. Okay, if the company has a record-breaking year, it is touted as a direct result of the CEO's visionary leadership and unmatched genius, obviously. But if the company has a terrible year, well, suddenly it's the global economy, it's supply chain disruptions, it's government policies, maybe Mercury is in retrograde. This natural reflex to find excuses totally protects our fragile self-esteem in the short term, but it absolutely destroys our long-term grip on reality. So if you want to know when healthy confidence has morphed into dangerous, clinical grandiosity, you have to monitor the symptoms, kind of like a doctor diagnosing a patient. Are you suffering from chosen one syndrome, where you start seeing yourself as fundamentally different from and superior to your peers? Or what about the fortress of flattery? This one is everywhere in the modern workplace. It's when a leader starts quietly firing the dissenters and only promotes the yes-men, the people who validate their greatness and shield them from uncomfortable truths. And then there's the invincibility illusion. This is probably the most lethal symptom. It kicks in when you start taking wild financial or personal risks simply because you genuinely believe the standard rules of life and business just don't apply to your unique genius anymore. Now, add confirmation bias and hindsight bias to the mix, and your ego becomes a sealed, impenetrable echo chamber. As our sources point out, confirmation bias acts as this heavy filter. It makes us actively hunt down only the evidence that supports what we already believe, while our brain literally discards or conveniently forgets any evidence that proves us wrong. Hindsight bias is even more insidious. Think of it like a malicious computer virus that secretly overwrites your memories. After an unpredictable event happens, this bias rewrites your brain to make you think, yup, I knew it all along. Why do we do this? To protect our ego from the terrifying reality that we are often just guessing in the dark. Together, these two biases create the I'm always correct ego, completely blinding us to our own highly destructive flaws. Which brings us to Section 3, the danger of victory. Okay, this is the crucial point. The real danger here isn't failure. It's actually victory. Just let that sink in for a second, because it sounds completely backwards, right? Why would winning be your biggest vulnerability? Well, because bad luck forces us to plan, scrutinize, and adapt. When things go wrong, we immediately strategize. We stay cautious. But as the source notes, good luck acts as a heavy sedative for our critical thinking. It makes us stop questioning our methods and start believing our success is 100% our own doing. Success is deeply intoxicating. It clouds your judgment, breeds massive overconfidence. You stop adapting, you stop learning. And that, right there, is exactly the moment when fortune shifts and catches you completely off guard. This perfectly introduces the momentum illusion. This is where we mistakenly believe that because we're moving fast, gravity just no longer applies to us. We assume momentum will carry us forward endlessly. And this leads to reckless decisions driven by emotion and a sudden need for attention rather than actual sound strategy. Think of a startup that has one huge viral product launch, right? And immediately they triple their headcount, they lease some massive, ridiculously expensive office, just assuming the momentum will naturally continue forever. Spoiler alert, it rarely does. The text warns us that what worked yesterday won't always work tomorrow. Circumstances are perpetually changing. So ask yourself, where in your own life are you currently coasting on momentum rather than executing a deliberate strategy? Because if you rely on the momentum illusion, you will eventually fall right out of the sky. Let's look at how to fix this in Section 4, Practicing Practical Grandiosity. Look, we can't just delete our cognitive biases. It's impossible. But we can learn how this all builds into actionable ego management, or what Robert Greene calls practical grandiosity. Grandiosity is a primal energy we all possess. The goal isn't to kill it, but to harness it. By following these specific steps from the source, you can safely channel that primal ambition into productive reality. Step 1. Embrace ambition. Be brutally honest with yourself about your desire for greatness so it doesn't secretly pull your strings from the shadows. Step 2. Focus your fire. Act like a laser. Pick one clear, attainable goal instead of a scattered shotgun blast of half-finished projects. Step 3. Stay grounded. Actually align your grand plans with your verifiable skills. Step 4. Stretch, don't snap. Set challenges that push your limits without entirely breaking your foundation. And finally, create controlled burn zones. Think of forestry. You intentionally set small, contained fires to clear brush and prevent a massive wildfire. In life, you need to occasionally take bold risks, but do it with strict, non-negotiable limits in place so a failure doesn't bankrupt you. Your ultimate foolproof defense against the Icarus effect is tying an anchor to reality. You have to actively seek out challenging feedback so your ideas don't just float away into the stratosphere. Find the person in your life who isn't afraid to look you in the eye and tell you that your idea is terrible, and keep them incredibly close. Seriously. If you only have people around you who nod, smile, and agree with every word you say, you are rapidly building that fortress of flattery. You need to practice humility, seek strict accountability, and purposefully invite harsh criticism. True confidence isn't surrounding yourself with cheerleaders. It's having the backbone to withstand and integrate honest criticism to make sure your vision works in the real world, and not just inside your own head. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ensure your hard-earned momentum doesn't become your eventual downfall. Is your next big victory going to be a solid stepping stone, or is it going to be your very own Icarus moment? Remember, the higher you fly, the more absolutely crucial your connection to the ground becomes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your ambition high, but for sure, keep your ego in check. Catch you next time.